I've spent over a decade of my life figuring out what it means for me to have a good relationship to my body, food, and exercise. And I want to share everything that I've learned, all of the mistakes that I've made, mindsets and practical tips. And hopefully by sharing my story, you'll be able to cut that time in at least half, which is what sharing our stories does. Part of our soul's journey is to help each other, to alleviate each other's suffering. And when we share what has actually happened to us, we feel less alone, we can learn from the mistakes and the wisdom of others. And I personally think that for a woman specifically, your relationship with your body, food, and exercise really takes up probably more mind space than most of us care to admit. I live in Los Angeles, and almost every woman that I talk to has either had an eating disorder or has had some sort of disordered eating. A little bit about my story. When I was younger, I always felt like I was the bigger kid. I always felt like I was chunkier. I was never like a super skinny girl running around doing sports. No. I couldn't do the monkey bars. I always felt like my body was less capable than other bodies when it comes to athleticism. I loved food, and there were definitely inappropriate comments made about the size of my body, about how things were flattering or unflattering. I was definitely encouraged to cover up, to be modest. I was taught that my body was something that was sinful and that showing even a bra strap or a spaghetti strap was going to tempt boys, because of course, boys focusing was more important than my own focus. So I would get pulled out of classrooms if I had an inappropriate length of a tank top. And I was not one of those girls who was trying to wear like super short shorts or like show my midriff. No. I wasn't concerned about that at all. I wanted to look cute, but I really was not interested in dressing inappropriately at all. And yet I was always getting dress coded. So me and dress code have big beef. I think it's absolutely ridiculous and it shames women and their bodies. I never felt secure about my body. Since I was probably 10, I always had this awareness that my body wasn't beautiful. And with that, when I was in high school, I just decided to sort of cover my body as much as possible and focus on school, focus on choir, focus on going to college. And I just didn't pay attention to my body at all. Same thing during college. When I thought about my body, I would experience shame. And I would always think about how I wanted it to be smaller. And I also wasn't sexually active at all during college. And I actually signed a contract because I went to a Christian school that said I wouldn't have sex before marriage and I wouldn't drink. But at that time, I happily signed that contract. I was like, yeah, sure, that's what God wants. And I think becoming sexually active much later in my life definitely contributed to this as well. But I always felt like I was cute. I never felt like I was hot or sexy, and sometimes I would feel beautiful. But I would look at pictures and I'd always be like, oh, I feel like I look chunky. Like that's how I felt. When I graduated college, that was the first time I started to exercise, and I went on a very intense diet. I expected after 30 days to literally have the body of a supermodel, and when I didn't, I was kind of disappointed because I just didn't know. There was a lot less information at the time, and there were all these promises that were like, if you do this for 30 days, you're going to completely transform your body. I didn't know that it was supposed to be a lifestyle and that you were supposed to actually develop habits of exercising, and it wasn't something that you did for 30 days, which seems absolutely ridiculous now, but that's just what I thought at the time. It was a lot of misinformation. That took me through a lot of years of trying random diets. Like I was just trying to find the solution so that I could finally have a small enough body so that it would be acceptable. And then I became sexually active, and it's so funny because this thing that had been demonized for so long actually helped me accept my body in a way that I had never before. I started to see my body as a thing of desirability, no matter what size it was, which is crazy. But it actually really helped me love myself more and see me as a woman who was desirable. And that was actually really helpful for me. And then over the years, I slowly just started to figure out, oh, doing my brows like this makes me feel like I'm beautiful. Oh, doing my lips like this makes me feel like I'm beautiful. Figuring out what eyelashes work for me and what works for my lifestyle. It was really a long journey of trial and error. And I think that that's fun. And I think that's what it's supposed to be like. Glow up isn't something that should be a 6-week thing. Glow up is really a lifestyle. I'm always glowing up. I'm always becoming more beautiful. I'm always becoming smarter. I'm always becoming more driven, more ambitious. It's an inner glow up and an outer glow up. The two are very much so interlinked. And when I was about 27 or 28, I decided that dieting just wasn't for me anymore. And I also got a health coaching certification, and I started coaching other women on how to transform their lives and think about health from a holistic place. And I absolutely loved it. However, there was still some disordered thoughts because really my goal was to eat healthy 100% of the time. And healthy for me meant only eating nutrient-dense foods. And that's still disordered. However, it was good that I gave up dieting, for sure. For exercise, only when I started to connect it to how I felt is when I started to be consistent. When it was purely aesthetically driven, it was so hard for me to actually go multiple times a week after week, month after month, year after year. Now I feel like I've consistently exercised for, I don't even know, 7-8 years. And I've never been stronger. I've never felt better. Now I'm more focused on what my body can do, not what it looks like. So the thing that I'm working on this year is being able to do the handstands and being able to do the splits. I'm always working on mobility, flexibility, and strength. Now that I've established the habit, I can focus on having fun. My workout routine is I usually do strength training 3 to 4 times a week. And how I got into strength training is I hired a trainer for 6 weeks so that I would go to the gym and not feel intimidated. The reason that I didn't do strength training at the beginning is because I felt embarrassed at the gym. I didn't know how to set up a barbell. I would look up stuff online, but I just felt very uncomfortable and awkward. So mostly I hired a personal trainer, not because I didn't know how to do the moves, but I just wanted someone to sort of show me around the gym and make me feel comfortable and learn how to use all of the machines. Yes, to give me proper form and things like that, but the comfortability that I had in the gym after that was really, really helpful. There was really no body transformation. The only transformation I had was comfortability. And then after that, I've been strength training ever since, and that was several years ago. When it comes to diet and nutrition, I can eat literally whatever I want. And it's whatever I want. That doesn't mean that I eat hot Cheetos from morning till night. Why? Because I don't want to. I don't want to feel bad. I make my food choices based on how I'm going to feel. If I'm thinking about a donut, then I'm going to go get a donut because I know that holistically, if I deny myself a donut and I just try to eat like a protein donut or something that is kind of like a donut but not really a donut, or a healthier blueberry muffin, I'm literally going to eat 4 of those and then still eventually get the donut. So allowing myself to have whatever I'm craving allows me to not be thinking about it constantly. So many people with food noise think they have to have more discipline and more restriction, where it's the opposite. You just need to let yourself eat candy. Let yourself eat nerds. When you have the mindset that you can have whatever you want, you can have as much as you want now, and you can have it the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. You don't have the desire to eat as much as possible in one sitting and go ham because after this, I'm never going to eat it again, or I'm not going to eat it for the next 2 months. There isn't that restrictive mindset. When you allow yourself to eat whatever you want, it means that you can have a little bit today, a little bit the next day, a little bit the day after that. You come to find out that you really don't want to eat 3 pizzas all in one sitting because it makes you feel bad. Making food choices based on what it feels like is literally the most freeing way to think about food. The only bad foods are the ones that will kill you or make you ill. So if when you eat a peanut, you go into anaphylactic shock, then that is a bad food for you. But there's no such thing as bad foods. And I don't even really like the word healthy, because healthy has a connotation that is really closely tied to morality, like healthy is good and unhealthy is bad. So really all foods are healthy, meaning that all foods are good, because health is a holistic thing. It's not just your physical health, right? There was a study done, I think in the blue zones, where the people who lived to over 100 were drinking red wine, were eating red meat and carbs. They just had community, literally friendships and walking are what made them live to 100 years old. And these people who are just eating green juices and kale and quinoa and all these like superfoods were sick because they were stressed out of their minds. Being able to regulate your stress is going to help you more than any diet could. If you're eating a nutrient-dense diet 100% of the time, but you don't know how to regulate your emotions, you are going to be ill. The thing about being healthy is that emotional health greatly affects your physical health. The most important thing that I could have done for my physical health was learning how to regulate my emotions. Was literally learning how to use my breath to regulate instead of going to my favorite high pleasure activity like food or Netflix or weed to soothe myself. Now I know how to soothe myself through cognitive reframing, to surrendering to the process, to knowing that everything that is happening for me. And guess what? I don't have to shove my face with food so that I can stop thinking about how awful and hard my life is and how I don't want to be in it, and I'm escaping it using one of my favorite things to do, which is eating. And I love eating. I love food. It's one of my favorite things to do. But now it isn't something that completely takes over my life. Really taking the time to understand what your relationship to your body is, what your relationship to food is, carving out time in your day. Maybe it's at the beginning of the day. You take 30 minutes to just be mindful about it. Most people know what they need to do. They don't need someone to tell them. Be mindful and be aware of those things and really take active steps to work on it. If you're listening to this and you're like, I have no idea what I need to do. I've worked with so many people who have eating disorders and even people who have disordered eating. I think the trickiest part is when you're in that in-between phase. Maybe you had an eating disorder, you're somewhat recovered, but you still don't have a good relationship to your body, or you still don't have a good relationship to food. You can work one-on-one with me as a coach. I absolutely find it to be such an honor to walk people through this really tough relationship. Having self-confidence and having self-esteem and feeling like you can walk into any room knowing that no matter who is there, there's no comparison, because your confidence doesn't come from who's there, who's not there. It comes from within. Coming from a very unbothered place where you genuinely love yourself, you love your body, you're not obsessed with what you look like, but you also are obsessed with what you look like because you love the way you look, you love who you are. Cultivating that through words of affirmation, through giving yourself all 5 of the love languages, that is something that I love to help people do. The transformations that I've seen have been absolutely mind-blowing, and there's nothing more satisfying than seeing another woman bloom before my eyes. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can DM me on Instagram at pearlbots, or I'll put my coaching application link in the description as well. You can heal yourself. I want everyone to know that even when you're working with a coach, even when you're working with a therapist, that work is self-healing. Every person can be empowered to heal themselves. You really don't need anybody. A coach can help you move through it faster. So if you have acute pain, if you have the resources to invest in a coach or invest in a therapist, I would say it's absolutely worth it when you think about your life holistically. There is a difference between a coach and a therapist. I'm not a therapist. I am a coach. A coach is going to be someone who is present and future oriented, whereas therapists tend to be more past oriented. I think the real dynamic duo is having both. But if you're someone who really wants to move forward in their life, I think hiring a coach is the way to go, and finding someone who you really feel like resonates with you. You look at their life, you look how they think, you look what results they have, and you say, I want that. That is the coach for you. If anything that I shared was helpful for you, I would love to hear from you. Literally hearing from people who have followed any of my accounts, it means the world to me, and it helps me continue to make content. And I have learned so much from creators that I follow. And I'm just telling you, it really stokes the flame and keeps the fire alive. So thank you so much for watching. I genuinely love you so much, and I'm so grateful that I get to do this. That's all I have to share for today. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.